Welcome to Larry King Live. Now, here's Larry King.
He's called the bad boy of comedy, the mouth of the 90s. Andrew Dice Clay has made quite a name for himself. Probably a name you can't say on television, but a name nonetheless. Andrew has taken his comedy show one step further and now stars in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. The Dice Man is live and in person here in our Hollywood studios. We'll be taking your calls later at 213-469-5533. This is a movie about a car?
No, not about a car, about a rock and roll detective.
Named Ford Fairlane?
Yeah, named Ford Fairlane after the car.
He drives that kind of car?
Yeah, he drives that car, and he's a rock and roll detective, and I mean, the movie's just full of laughs. I mean, it's very funny.
Your first film?
Well, it's my first major leading role. I've done other films like Casual Sex and Pretty in Pink, but this is the one.
Okay. Is this an original story, or is it off a novel?
Yeah, this is off of these stories by Rex Weiner, who wrote these stories for a magazine years ago, and then it was adapted into a screenplay. And Dan Waters wrote the script, and then I punched it up as we went along.
What, Andrew, is a rock and roll cop?
No, a rock and roll comic?
Detective.
Yeah, he's well, the story is based, this guy came out here from Brooklyn and wanted to be a rock star. Didn't work out for him. So now what happens, he decides to stay in rock and roll by becoming a detective and only working for rock and roll clientele.
He represents, or
yeah, he'll only work for, you know, like rock stars or producers, and he takes those kind of cases. And it's a fun movie. It's fast-paced, action-packed. I sing, I dance, I'm funny. And I'm incredible, Larry.
The director's, he's on a roll.
Yeah, Rennie Harlan. I mean,
he's got Die Hard 2.
Yeah, he's cooking, but it was great, because during the filming, Rennie came to me one day and said, both you and I will never have this much fun making a movie again. You know, I mean, we just had a great time.
You probably never will.
You know, I mean, it was just fun. I mean, everybody on the set was a moron or an imbecile, and it was, you know, we were shooting in Malibu, and, you know, and Rennie listened to what I told him, and he did a great job.
Do you like making movies?
Yeah, I do.
Although it's not stand-up, it's not instant applause, you don't hear laughter.
Yeah, but, you know, I look at even stand-up as acting. You know, that's one role. And so movies are different roles. You know, only with stand-up you have the live audience feedback. But I had the crew, you know.
They laughed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They'd have to hold it in. That's how funny I am. But after the take, then I'd give them the permission to laugh, and that's how it worked.
But it is an extension of you, right? I mean, the shtick you do, the acting you do, is you.
Well, of course it's me, but it's not, you know, it's like I could watch you for the next 20 minutes and then pick up something from you, like the way you sit or the way you look at somebody, and I'll use that on stage. You know, I had a bricklayer come to my house in Brooklyn to put up a fence, and the next night I'm on stage doing them. You know, I mean, people have certain quirks.
So that's your shtick, in other words, for want of a better term.
It's almost impressions of people that aren't famous.
How are you reacting, then, to all of this happening off what you do? Not what you are, but what you do.
I think the media's made too much out of me telling dirty jokes. You know, I created a character that obviously a lot of people like. I mean, I fill every arena in the country, and the thing is, the media, instead of seeing the joke, they like say it's horrible, you know, but yet 20,000 people in an arena laugh like crazy.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this 12 years.
Why now? Why has the media suddenly discovered this now?
Well, because I'm only famous for about a year and a half.
Okay. How'd you get famous?
I did Rodney Dangerfield's Nothing Goes Right special. I did about 8 minutes on that, and the next month I was in concert. First concert I did was at Town Hall in Manhattan, 1,500 seats. It sold out like in 10 minutes, and we took it from there.
Okay, now at that point, didn't someone interview you, ask you this, have you tell them this is the shtick I do, and
but
it goes away?
I just don't think that, I think the media has more fun when they could rip into something. I mean, if they just turn around and say, the guy's great, he fills arenas, he makes a lot of people laugh, that's the end of it. But if they could just keep playing off the character, there's more to work with.
Why do you think, for example, they didn't do it, say, to Eddie Murphy, who curses a lot?
Eddie Murphy, you know, was a kid when he started out, that's number one. And he really, you know, I really don't know too much of his material to talk about, but he didn't really do it in a character form. You know, I do it with the leather jacket and the attitude, and there's just no editing when I'm on stage.
No, you're it from go to end, right? That's the character.
I mean, when I put on my jacket, I'm Dice. You know, If Dice was to come out here and go, hey, Larry, what about what you do, eh?
Okay, now that's
You know, I
Brooklyn.
mean,
I knew guys
you
like
know,
Dice.
and that's
You're
what I
from
portray.
Sheepshead Bay.
Yeah.
That's Dice is a guy we knew. There's a
Exactly.
lot of Dices around.
Yeah, but in a way it's not, because the language is what makes it funny. Those characters exist, but I haven't really met anybody that'll talk like that. You know,
Whereas you're a
because I've
caricature-
said it in interviews before. I wouldn't really hang out with a guy that talks like that and believes those things.
You
But
wouldn't like that guy.
No, but comedically, I think it's funny.
Why?
Because I think not even in the backs of people's heads, I think they really do think some of those things. You know, I think people do have one-night stands, and I think that people do get aggravated if they're online at the grocery and have one item and the guy in front of them has a basket. If that guy doesn't go ahead of me, you know, and they get mad at it, but they stand there and they're quiet. But on stage, I call them on it. You know, or Earth Day, for instance. You know, everybody made a big deal out of Earth Day, and the next day people are walking around spitting in the street again. You know, it's like a day to barbecue. I went to 28 barbecues that day. Oh, this is biodegradable. This is and the next day they're throwing the wrappers in the street. I mean, people are hypocritical, you know.
Is smoking part of the shtick, or?
No, I smoked for about the last 10 years. I'm going to quit pretty soon, I think. You know, I like it, but it's not the greatest thing for you. You know.
But it is.
I don't recommend to kids that they start smoking if they like the character.
But
you
it
know?
works in the character, right?
Definitely.
Okay. Have you said anything to those other performers who have criticized you, like the people who wouldn't appear with? Were there anybody, for example, turned down being in a movie with you, to your knowledge?
No.
No. The movie they were happy to do.
Yeah.
Do you know any of these people like who wouldn't go on Saturday Night Live or something else? Did you ever feel like calling them up and say, hey, you know, this is an act. I'm doing a bit.
Well, they know that. You know, they know
And why
it,
not go
and-
on? What's the difference?
Well, I just look at it like, you know, when something's hot, it's like all these groups that deface my billboards and this and that. They know when they do that their name is going to be mentioned on the news. I really don't think they care if because they do that, my movie sells more tickets. But when they hear the name of that group on TV, they're going, oh, look, they're saying our name, you know? And so they go after something hot. They're not going to go after a comic that started Monday night.
I see.
They're going to go after someone that's hot and does this kind of thing.
So what you're saying is if there were an actress booked on the show tonight and she announced she's not going to go on Larry King
Yeah,
Live
her
time
name's
'cause
gonna
you're
be
on,
mentioned.
her name is going to be
Yeah.
mentioned, and you're saying that's for effect they're doing it because
Yeah.
they should understand it's an act?
I mean, you know, a great example is Nora Dunn. You know, I mean, she did this when she had one show left to do on her contract for Saturday Night Live. And when Sam Kinison did the show 3 years ago, she didn't boycott that because she still had 3 years of a contract left. So she tried to make a move, and it only helped me.
How do you like any of this, though? Frankly, it also has helped.
No,
I mean, this movie
well-
is probably, let's be honest, this movie has gotten some great reviews. It's probably also going to go through the roof. I mean, a lot of people are going to go
Yeah,
see The
I mean,
Adventures of Fort Fairlane.
it's going great.
This publicity helps it, doesn't it?
Well, it does-
Perversely helps it.
Yeah, it does. It does. I can't say it doesn't because it does.
So do you, is there a part of you that enjoys the attention this is getting?
No, I think it's too much. You know, I think they've made too much out of a comedian because that's all I am. You know, I'm an entertainer. If I was saying I'm running for president and saying those kind of things, that's a different ballgame. But as a comedian, I mean, I see myself on the news every day now, and I'm going, it's too much. It's not that important. I mean, I love to entertain, and I love to do movies, and I want to entertain for the rest of my life, but I don't think it's that newsworthy, you know, to be on every show and every interview. It's like, and they're not even talking about me. They're talking about an acting part that I do every night of the week, whether I'm on at the Comedy Store, whether I'm in concert. I'm an actor, and I'm playing this character so real that I've made all these reviewers and writers just, you know, sink their teeth into it.
Let's talk about whether you want to or not go beyond that character. Our guest is Andrew Dice Clay. The film is The Adventures of Fort Fairlane. Your phone calls will be included. This is Larry King Live in Los Angeles with this great crew out here on the West Coast at CNN. We'll be right back. We'll go to calls for Andrew Dice Clay. He stars in The Adventures of Fort Fairlane, Murfreesboro, Kentucky. Hello.
Hello.
Tennessee, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Larry. Hello, Mr. Clay.
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Clay, I just wanted to ask you, you could probably succeed without all the vulgarity and the obscenities because I'm very impressed with your appearance and everything. My question is, do you feel that you are using the profanity and the vulgar words because you're just incapable of succeeding as a real comic as Johnny Carson and Bob Hope and George Burns?
Well, I consider myself a real comic, and I use the kind of language I do because that's what I choose to do.
How do you react? You mentioned the other performers. When other performers knock you, I mean, is it very hard to take?
Those same performers are performers that used to stand in the back of the Comedy Store and laugh at what I do, you know. And then when I became successful, more successful than any of them, now it's, you know, they try to feed off of me, and when they talk against me, it's the same thing. They get their name mentioned on TV.
Are you angry at them?
No, because I always considered myself like the Serpico of comedy, you know, from the day, yeah. I mean, that's how, you know, because when I started out, I used to do like musical impressions. And at that time, comics used to stand in the back of the room and go, what's he doing? This is the Comedy Store. He's singing and dancing, you know, and but yet the audience is laughing, you know. And then when I changed and I started doing more of a, you know, off-color routine, now they'd laugh at that. But now once I took off, it's like, well, why should he make it that big? Because some of the comics talking against me do, you know, off-color stuff, and, you know.
Jackson, Mississippi, with Andrew Dice Clay. Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Great accent.
Love that sound. Go ahead, dear.
First, Andrew, I want to tell you that I do not consider you a sexist. I do consider Nora Dunn one. I love your act. It's fantastic. But if there's anything you could change about your act, what would that be?
Maybe my wardrobe. The leathers are pretty heavy, you know what I mean?
Are you getting a little tired of it? The wardrobe?
Well, those leathers are very heavy. They weigh like 20, 25 pounds.
You could wear. Why don't you wear this?
Well, I think I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do.
No, but it's a show. You know what I mean? And I like to give them the show. You know, that's
the dice on stage.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I got from Elvis, the garb and the, you know, the big glasses and the high collars and the studs, you know.
That's part of the shtick.
Yeah.
Lansing, Michigan. Hello.
Hi, Dice. This is Jeff Ford, your biggest fan. Your movie is great. I loved it.
I said opening
Everybody
tomorrow.
loved
Has it opened already?
No, it opened Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. You saw it, sir?
Movie. My question for you is, do you think that part of your popularity is because you joke around publicly the way a lot of guys do privately?
Well, yeah, in a way, you know, and plus, you know, I do concerts and that kind of stuff, you know.
Charleston, South Carolina. Hello.
Hello, this is Karen, and Larry, I love your show, especially this week.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask Andrew, if your speech and your tears on the Arsenio Hall show were genuine, and if so, I think my opinion of you has changed almost from disgust to admiration, because I see the struggling comedian as separate from the character you portray. I'm nervous. And I also wanted to ask you if you intend to phase out the Dice Man in favor of acting, but you sort of already answered that.
What was that, Arsenio? What happened?
Yeah, well, I sort of choked up. I wanted to get a point across that I've said to 100 interviewers already, that the bottom line, no matter what I do, you know, as far as language, I think people should look at more of what I did with my life. You know, how I pushed myself and how I think everybody, whatever that dream might be, whether it's, you know, I don't care if it's a truck driver or a doctor, but to go after what your dream is and just don't take no for an answer. So I got a little choked up over it.
How do you resist the anger, though, when the dream comes true suddenly, but people are angry or...
Yeah, but the American public digs what I do. I mean, it's mostly reviewers I have to deal with, writers, you know, and
other some other.
Yeah, and then some other performers. I mean, there are performers that love me too, you know. I mean, Wayne Newton is one of them. So
Wayne Newton, who has made speeches about working clean, hasn't he, Wayne Newton?
Well, I don't know, you know, what kind of speeches he made, but I know he likes what I do, and he thinks, you know, that I'm a talent, you know.
And you obviously think you are.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. I have a note here that says that there was a Fox canceled release of an Andrew Dice concert movie because of negative publicity. Did they?
I have no idea.
Today's Variety says that Fox canceled a release.
Well, I didn't see that, so I don't know.
Do you have a movie, an Andrew Dice concert movie?
We filmed The Garden. You know, what we're going to do with it, I don't know yet. You know, I more or less wanted to film it for the history of what I've done, you know, to play arenas, so, you know, whatever they do with it's fine with me.
You wouldn't think they wouldn't release it, would you?
I think they will.
Columbus, Ohio, hello.
Yes, I was wondering if you're able to separate your ego from your act, or is it part of both of you?
Well, the only place I really have an ego is when I am performing. You know, I mean, obviously you don't know me when I'm not working, so all you've seen is the Dice Man, and the Dice Man does have a tremendous ego. You know, he could go with any woman, he could handle any situation, And but off stage, I think I'm a little different.
But all part of the act is that ego. This was.
Oh
this
yeah, I mean he's the ultimate macho guy.
Do you? Let me get a break and we'll come back and pick that up. Our guest is Andrew Dice Clay. He stars in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. It opened Wednesday across America. And, of course, they'll get the full results this Monday when they tab the figures. Everyone knows box office receipts, and the whole world will know Monday whether it's a hit or not, because that's the way we judge things. Quickly, we'll be right back with Andrew Dice Clay after this. Andrew Dice Clay, you just signed, who stars in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane from 20th Century Fox. You signed a new movie deal with them, too?
Yeah, the next one I'm doing is the gossip columnist for Fox.
That's the title?
Yeah.
You play a
It's
gossip?
like putting me in high society, which should be pretty funny.
Especially in view of what's going on
romantic
now.
comedy. It's, you know, it'll be a fun movie.
Montreal, Canada, for Andrew Dice Clay. Hello.
Yes, Andrew. Since so many people are trying to ban your shows, I was wondering what your views were on certain bands being banned, like censorship and all that, like Guns N' Roses and Two Live Crew.
Well, I just think they're performers and they should be allowed to perform, basically. You know, I don't think they're doing anything that wrong. I know more of Guns N' Roses than I do of Two Live Crew.
Do you like Guns N' Roses?
Yeah.
St. Joseph, Minnesota. Hello.
Yes, hi Larry.
Hi.
How you doing, Andrew?
All right, what's going on?
Well, I'm just wondering about your own feelings about women. I understand the Dice Man's. He's kind of a use 'em and lose 'em kind of attitude. And I'm wondering about your own attitude to it. Does that reflect...
No, you kidding me? I'm crazy about women. How do you think I know so much about them?
That's just what bothers me. You know so much of them in the negative sense.
No, but that's my show. You know, I mean, you know, I have a girlfriend. I mean, you know, that, you know, I don't do any of the things I speak about on stage too, and maybe that's why my sex life is so boring. But no, but I'm nothing, you know, like what you hear on stage. That's a show.
Are there women comics, to your knowledge, doing any shtick that are anti-male?
I've actually seen women doing, there's one or two women I've seen doing this Andrea Dice Clay, you know, which is pretty funny, you know.
That's funny. Los Angeles, the movie is The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Hello.
Yeah, it's really Sylvester Stallone. How you doing, Larry?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Well, it's fantastic. I want to say that it's a surprise call, actually. I had a friend of mine get in for me. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
But I think when you're at the top, people tend to want to pull you down. And I think that Andrew has experienced something that I experienced, and I think it's pretty much just a phase, you might say.
I'm going to check if this is you, okay? Hello?
Yes.
Where did I last see you?
You came in and you sat next to me with your bad breath in Spago.
Wrong. But that guy does a great Stallone.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was a good Stallone.
That was pretty good.
Do you want to direct films? You like films so much?
Yeah, but I'm not ready for that yet. I mean, I make my own little movies and stuff, but, you know, and I'm practicing.
Yeah, you do that. What are you doing, filming your life?
Yeah, I film, you know, I film a lot of stuff, but I also like to make, like, movies, and I use, like, my family as the cast, and, you know, to learn different angles and different shots, and one day I'll probably direct something.
When we don't get the shtick, like MTV, banning you for life, which is kind of incredible to be banned from life for a time. Yeah. What happens if the executives die and new executives take over? How did you feel about that?
I thought it was stupid, you know. I mean, I felt maybe they did what they did at the spur of the moment. You know, they also have sponsors that they have to answer to. And but I think the whole banning for life, you know, I don't think that'll be. You know.
Did you make a promise to them that you wouldn't do it? I mean, did they...
No, that was all, I don't know where they got that information from, but I wasn't planning on coming out and talking dirty anyway on the show. And it was just something that happened because they got me sort of shooken up before I went out. And I started.
Did they do something?
Well, they were all over me. The producer, the director, tell me this, tell me that. And I'm going, you know, I'm walking out there, and it was right before I went out. And I started doing certain poems that I've used on TV before that, you know, go through the censors fine. And I started this other one, which was pretty new. And in the middle, I realized, you know, what the ending was, you know. And it was like, well, what do I do? So I just went through it. I did another line or two, and I, you know, introduced Cher. It wasn't done intentionally.
Was the Saturday Night Live experience a good one?
As far as doing the show,
Yeah.
it was great. You know, what happened with that chick that banned me, or banned herself from the show for, you know, that's never fun. You know, I think it's silly, especially from other performers.
Oh, David Letterman won't have you on his show, is that right?
Well, I'm not really trying to get on his show. I mean, the whole point I was making with Letterman was that comics I've seen on his show, aren't really that good, other than his friends, like Leno and George Miller. Those are his buddies that he puts on regardless. But guys that I do know that are really, top professional comics that audition time after time, and Letterman won't put them on because, I don't know. It's something in him, I guess. He gets a little nervous about it.
What do you mean, jealous of good comics?
Not jealous. He just doesn't want... I've never seen a comic really come out there and devastate a crowd. And he won't allow that, from what I understand. And I think that's wrong, because I think the job of any talk show host is to bring new talent on, especially if they're great talent.
Yeah. Burlington, Vermont, for Andrew Dice Clay. Hello.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel about Howard Stern?
The best.
You like
Probably
him?
the best DJ in the country.
What do you think about the FCC today saying they're going to ban some of this stuff, or proposing to ban it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, today it's like everything's being banned. So, it's like everybody jumps on the bandwagon. I mean...
That's funny. B-A-N-N-E-D wagon.
You know what I mean. But, everybody, does their job.
All right, make a forecast for me, Andrew. How's the film going to do?
The film is going to be the smash comedy hit of the summer. I mean, it's already, doing great. But I predicted that when we were on the set. I mean, as far as a performer, I believe in myself so much that, I gave everything I had as far as, playing that role, so how can't you laugh?
Have you gone and watched it a lot?
I've only seen it twice.
With audiences, like in the back of a movie theater?
Well, yeah, I saw one in Jersey when they did a test screening, and the crowd went nuts. I mean, I counted 30 big laughs and applause at the end. And then I went to a screening cast and crew last Sunday. And, it moves. It's fast-paced. I mean, there's no message in the film other than come in and laugh and have a great time.
Which is what you're saying anyway, right? About your act.
That's all my act is,
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, thank you.